What's going on in the world, and I'll get to some of these news stories, but I'm also going to bring up my folks and all along those lines because, like I said, I'm over at the Cultural Arts Center that I work in because we've got a tour later on today and all in that space. And we've also got Ta-Nehisi Coates, the world famous author, coming here and speaking later on this evening. But in a little bit, I'll be bringing up Sasha Starr and Rick Rosner and seeing what they've got going on in their world and all along those lines. And by the way, we had two speakers yesterday. They were in the feminism space and everything like that. I think it was Andrea Marie Brown and the other person who was speaking with her. And I'm trying to remember her name and all along those lines. But a lot's going on in the world, and we'll be getting to those things and all in that space. So hold on one second. Going to run a commercial, and I'll be right back and all in that way. Hey, did I hear this in it?
One of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Palavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Couliet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252.
Hello and welcome to Newsday with Jeff Ahern. I'm your host, Jeff Ahern. Today's top story. If there is such a thing as foot and mouth disease, then Joe Biden and Kamala Harris must have gotten the version where it's their entire leg. With Biden, it's more of a staccato stupidity. Harris prefers a more robust word salad. So allow me to mash up their speeches and see if you can figure out who's who. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democrat candidate for the United States Senate. And we have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. I think that, to be honest with you, I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled, like poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids, which is why if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black, you lying dog-faced pony soldier. Come on, man. You need to get to the go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home. So you go ahead and stack the spaghetti sauce at a store and a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who runs or brings out the carts on a forklift. What happened? Anyway, Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. But we stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv, but he will never win the hearts of the Iranian people, which is why it's time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women were created by the thing. And America can be defined in one word. Ask the Mafapanahawa. End of quote. Repeat the line. America can be defined in one word. Ask the Hamanafatapai. Let's go, Brandon.
Hello.
Well, that was from Jeff Ahern, who used to do a show with us and everything like that. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he wants to do the show again. But that was a old show that he had done. So I was actually having a call here at my Culture Arts Center. So I just pulled up that one just really quickly. But I know that he's still very much a conservative, so he's probably still got that situation. By the way, Americans have only elected 3 black governors this year. 8 major party candidates are on the ballot. So we might have some more black governors. And all in that.
I would guess that Brian Donald. I would guess that Brian Donald.
That's one of the ones that's
winner for Florida. I don't like Brian Donald. I don't think he's a great guy, but I think he's the favored to be he's the Republican winner of the primary for governor to replace Ron DeSantis, and who I didn't like either because I'm a lib and DeSantis is not. I think he caused a lot more people to die from COVID in Florida than needed to die. Anyway, I think Brian Donald's in a strong position to replace DeSantis.
Yeah, and we got other news stories. Apparently, Lindsay Clancy is begging for help. Was begging for help before killing her children, is what her former mother-in-law is testifying. And an ex-Fauci advisor pleads guilty to plotting to conceal COVID-19 research records, and all along those lines. So definitely, this is something during the pandemic. So, and the Penn State frat pledges were made to cut and bag cocaine for their college drug ring, according to what authorities are saying. So we got everything from drugs to immigration to a number of other things taking place in the world.
So this is day 108 of gas national average price being over $4 a gallon in Trump's second term. Compared to, we had 154 days of $4 gas under Biden. Except Biden was addressing a couple things. One, Russia had started the invasion of Ukraine, which affected gas supplies. Two, Trump, gas had gone to like $1.80 a gallon. First term Trump during 2020, when COVID shut everything down, since nobody was going anywhere, demand for gas went down sharply across the entire world because the world was locked down. And Trump made a deal with OPEC to reduce a two-year deal to reduce production. To try to help out the oil companies by raising, with less oil, that meant that they could raise prices on oil above $1.80 a dollar for $1.80 a gallon for gas. 2 years later, that agreement was still in effect under Biden. That plus the Putin's invasion of Ukraine helped drive up gas above $4 a gallon, and even for a week or so to $5 a gallon. So Biden was dealing with external forces.
Rick, just go through the news and everything like that. My group came in earlier than I thought.
Okay.
And
All right.
Sasha,
All right.
Goes
I'll
on
put on
camera.
my drudge glasses here, my little reading glasses. And anyway, the price of gas right now is all on Trump. He thought he could knock down Iran. Iran did not fall over. They've closed off the Strait of, they continue to close the Strait of Hormuz, and gas continues to be, like $1.20 more expensive, $1.10 more expensive than it was before the war. What else? There are a lot of headlines about Natalie Harp, who is this young blonde assistant to Trump who types his tweets for him and hangs out with him, I guess, more than anybody else at this point. Trump has always liked young, pretty women, and she is one. She's also fanatically devoted to Trump. Other White House staffers tried to close her out. They didn't want her to have that much influence, but she moved to last summer. She moved to the Bedminster Golf Course, where Trump was staying, and moved into started camping out in a locker room because the other White House staffers gave her lodging far away from Trump. In order to be closer to him, she slept in a locker room. She's also, let's see, this Drudge headline says she got in a screaming match with other staffers. So the rest of the White House staff thinks she has too much influence. Is trying to keep her away from Trump, and she does whatever possible to stay close to Trump. So they said there wasn't a seat for her on this is 2023, before Trump had become president again. And his other staffers told her there wasn't room for her in a vehicle, so she climbed into the trunk of the vehicle. So anyway, she's very devoted to Trump. The rest of the White House, since these stories are from a couple of years ago, I assume they've come to accept that she is his shadow. Let's find some less trivial news. John Ossoff is still, and Trump are still trading jabs. But that seems like news from yesterday. So there's still a fight going on for 18% of the Lakers. So the Buss family, Jerry Buss, famously owned and ran the Lakers from 1979 until his death, I don't know, 10 years ago? I don't know how many years ago, at which point ownership went to his 6 kids, with the spearhead of the siblings being Jeannie Buss, who seemed to be the one of the 6 who was most devoted to the Lakers. And a few years ago, they sold most of the Lakers to the owner of the Dodgers for $10 billion 2.5 years ago. But they held on to about 18%. Now the owner of the Lakers, owner of the Dodgers, is having to sell some of his assets off to come up with, because I guess he's in something like the insurance business, where you need to prove that you have assets on hand to pay off claims on your business. And this guy didn't have enough liquid assets. His money is locked up in the Dodgers and the Lakers to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. And he's under legal scrutiny for not having enough money that you're required by law to have. So he just sold the Lakers for $12.5 billion to Jared Kushner's brother and Bob Iger, the former head of the Disney Corporation. But the Buss family still owns 18%. And the brothers, now there's a sitcom about the Buss family, the Jeannie Buss and her brothers owning the Lakers and running the Lakers. It's called Running Point. It stars Kate Hudson and Justin Theroux. Anyway, so and the sitcom is about Jeannie Buss not getting along so well with her brothers and trying to keep the Lakers afloat. And this is turning into a real life sitcom because the brothers banded together to sell the rest of the Lakers to Josh Kushner and Bob Iger for $2 billion. They bought most of it for 12.5 but there's still a chunk left over for a couple billion. Now Jeannie Buss is fighting with the brothers. She wants to continue to hold on to their portion of the Lakers. So it's a little bit of a sitcom or a soap opera here in Los Angeles. So I'm looking for more stuff to talk to you about. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison on Tuesday announced they're suing Texas over the extradition of an ICE agent accused of shooting a man in Minneapolis. He didn't kill the guy, but an ICE agent named Christian Castro shot a guy in the leg in Minneapolis in January. And then he's accused of 4 counts of second-degree assault, 1 count of falsely reporting a crime. Texas Rangers arrested him in May, and he's been held in Texas ever since. And Minnesota wants him back there, I guess, to go on trial. And Texas is refusing. The governor of Texas is refusing. So obviously this is a political dispute. Minnesota is a blue state. Texas is a very red state. And all right, what else we got here? That's trivial news. A Florida billionaire paid $40 million for a fancy Maserati a Ferrari SUV. I don't like news like that. It doesn't tell me about what's going on in general. It was the hottest day in the history of Miami. This is, I guess they've been keeping track of temperatures in Miami for more than a century, and they tied the highest temperature on record. They also hit 100 degrees. So I guess Miami doesn't get that hot. 100 degrees is the hottest it's ever been in Miami, I guess because they're on the ocean, and they tied a record set in 1942. That's semi-trivial. Iran, the people, the hardline mullahs in charge of Iran are weighing attacks on U.S. military bases in Europe if Trump escalates the war. So, but we don't know if Trump is going to escalate the war because he's escalated the war a number of times since he began it at the end of February, and he hasn't really accomplished any change in, the people running Iran haven't conceded anything. They haven't, as far as we know, they haven't agreed to do anything that Trump wants. So if Trump were smart, which he pretty much isn't, he wouldn't escalate the war because it probably wouldn't accomplish anything. But the people in charge of Iran are considering attacking U.S. military sites in Europe if he does so. They've been attacking U.S. military bases across the Mideast. This would expand the scope of their attacks. I guess a follow-on question is, does Iran have the ability to strike targets in Europe? Because they have missiles, but are the missiles long range enough to reach Europe? And I guess the third thing is we really don't want to find out. U.S. bonds. The U.S. has, the amount of debt that we have has gone. I think Trump is now responsible for 28% of the national debt. We've been spending a lot on the military. We spend $1 trillion a year on the military. That's the military budget. And Hegseth and the Department of War have asked for an extra $500 billion. So this plus a lot of other stuff has raised the national debt to $40 trillion. And other countries are a little nervous about our ability to pay off the debt that we have, the bonds, pay interest on the bonds. Our U.S. bonds are no longer considered, I guess, as safe as they were formerly. And so we've had to raise the interest rates we're offering on the bonds to the highest level since 2007. So not only do we have the most national debt in history, but the interest we're paying on the debt is at record highs. So I think we pay more than $1 trillion a year just in interest. It's like the U.S. has credit card bills, and the interest we're paying on our credit cards is one of the largest line items, along with defense, in the U.S. budget. And it doesn't get us anything. The same way that the money you send to your credit card company to pay interest on your credit cards, that doesn't get you any new stuff. You're just paying off old stuff. And the interest means that your debt doesn't go away. And it takes longer for the debt to go away. So that's the situation we're in with our debt right now. Inflation was 3.4% last month for July. There are estimates out on Kalshi that we will again be at 3.3 to 3.4% of year-over-year inflation for next month, or for August, for our current month, when we get done with the month and we get the report. Now it's not great. It's over 3%. Trump promised that inflation would go away, which is general, when the Fed looks at inflation, they think inflation is at low to trivial levels when it's under 2%. So anything under 2% is fairly acceptable. But we're at roughly almost double that. Prices overall have risen since Trump became president a second time by more than 5%. Not as much as under Biden, but Biden had 4 years, but prices rose by 20% under Biden. But prices are still going up. So Biden and Trump combined have raised prices by 25%. The $5 you had at the beginning of Biden's term as president is worth less than $4 now in purchasing power. We've talked about how AI is kind of wrecking education because students rely on it to do their work. Because when I was a kid, if you had to do a report, say I got assigned a report, I had to do a report on the country of Spain. And I had to go to the library, and I had to find books and encyclopedias and read about Spain. Now all you do is type in, tell me about Spain. And within 2 seconds, AI gives you as much, information about Spain as you could possibly want. If you want to cut and paste it into a paper, fine, but you don't have to do any kind of, not that I did great research when I was a kid. I'd go to the encyclopedia. If I had an assignment, that was give me 1 page on the Battle of Bunker Hill, I would just copy the article out of the encyclopedia and I'd change a few words, thinking that would protect me from the teacher thinking, that I'd copied the encyclopedia. So kids have always semi-cheated, but now it's even easier. And that means that kids have lost the ability to read in depth. And this headline from the website Futurism says, teachers warn that students are losing the ability to think as they lean on AI for everything. And there are other signs that people are getting stupider. There's a thing called the Flynn effect that takes the average IQ of the entire planet, of every human on Earth. They group together a ton of studies from across the planet each year, and they say, well, here's how people are doing on IQ tests. And from the end of World War II until the end of the 20th century, the average IQ scores across the entire planet went up 15 or 16 points. In the 21st century, that's reversed, and we probably lost 10 IQ points. And a lot of it is because of tech. That I don't know if you've ever seen a hermit crab. Hermit crabs are crabs that make their homes in empty shells. They walk across the beach until they find a shell that they fit into. And as they grow, they might leave one shell and move into a larger shell. And when they're between shells, when they're on the beach, they're defenseless. They're these little mushy, sad creatures with only the front half, their claw parts are hardened. The back half, which is normally stuck in a shell, is tender and unprotected, and they're very vulnerable. And that's what Gen Z is now without tech. If you take away AI and cell phones from Gen Z, they're like naked hermit crabs. They can't do anything. They're vulnerable. They're dumb. They need the shell of technology to protect them. And teachers are bitching about it. That the students, you put them in a classroom, you tell them to put away their cell phones, and they're all freaking idiots. There's a thing called the Gen Z dead stare. That's where a guy my age and people my age are chattier than Gen Z is, because we lived most of our lives before smartphones, and we had to talk to people face to face or call them on the phone instead of texting them. So it's our natural behavior to go up to people and just start talking at them like a weirdo. There's a series of ads, for insurance ads, where there's an old guy who teaches middle-aged people not to do this, that it means you're turning into your parents. But anyway, Gen Z is, that if a boomer like me goes up and tries to talk to Gen Z, Gen Z will sometimes just give you the dead stare, like, I don't understand what's happening. Some old person is saying words at me, and I don't know what to do in this situation. So anyway, that's where we are. Is it the end of the world? No, it's a change in behavior with implications. We know that Gen Z, not being able to talk face to face and always on their phones or streaming shit on TikTok or whatever, also is bad at getting laid, at going up and trying to hook up with people. They don't know how to do it. They don't like to do it. It's easier just to not do it. So we have a baby shortage across the whole the whole developed world. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. A baby shortage actually helps with global warming. If we make fewer humans, that's fewer humans to make pollution, and that gives us a better handle on global warming. That peak humanity, the point at which the number of humans on Earth reaches a maximum and then drops. That point was, people used to say it was going to be at more than 10.5 billion people in the year 2100. That was before cell phones and Gen Z not having sex lowered the estimate to about 9. Peak humanity is going to be 9.5 billion in 2052, and it's going to go down from there, which is much better for the planet than 10.5 or 11 billion people consuming resources. So, I mean, it's bad if you don't want your country to shrink. The U.S. population growth is at the lowest level in history. It's under 0.25% per year. It would be negative if it weren't for do we have positive net immigration now with all the deportation? I don't know. Anyway, we might be at zero population growth in the U.S., which makes it harder to run businesses. Growth is good for business. You create more customers, more consumers. And so if the U.S. population starts shrinking, that's a less healthy economic environment, maybe better for climate change, but not for business. So, things change, some for the better and some for weirder and worse. I mean, who would have thought in the 70s and 80s that we would be so preoccupied with entertainment and devices that we would stop having sex? All right. Another headline. That AI phobia. This is a headline from the Financial Times out of London, I think. AI phobia is America's new consensus that Americans' new big fear is that AI is going to do all sorts of terrible things, including maybe wipe out humans. The sub-headline is Trump is uncharacteristically deaf to voter fears over AI. That Trump is full speed ahead on AI. A lot of his big donors, billionaire donors, are AI, billionaire owners of AI companies. So of course, Trump is going to move to the money and is going to be gung-ho about AI, even as Americans have serious fears about what it could do and what it's already doing. It's already chewing up a ton of jobs. So job growth in America is down 88% since Trump introduced tariffs in March of 2025. Now, it's not all on Trump's tariffs. AI, like it's Trump plus AI, is chewing up a ton of jobs. That AI, just like a futurist named Cory Doctorow says, that AI doesn't have to be better than human workers. Just the AI companies have to convince your idiot boss that AI can do your job. And your idiot boss may not care that AI does a crappier job than you did when you had the job that you've now lost, because your boss is saving money for the company on salaries, because wages on average are 2/3 of the cost of a business. So anyway, AI is chewing up millions and tens of millions of jobs across America. And that leads to, that in a normal month between the years 2010 and 2025 in America, we would create about 200,000 net new jobs, not including 2020 when COVID shut everything down. But every other year between 2010 and 2025, 200,000 on average new jobs every month. Under Trump, and Trump's been president for 19 months, we've created under 600,000 new jobs. So in 19 months, we've created only as many jobs as would have been created in 3 months in past years. And a third of those jobs were created before Trump introduced tariffs. Since Trump's introduced tariffs 15, 16 months ago, the U.S. has only netted 336,000 net new jobs. So in 16 months, we've only created 2 months worth of jobs. And that's thanks to tariffs, and it's thanks to AI. So AI is already kicking our asses. So you might say, yeah, but unemployment is low. It's only 4.1%. That's because of discouraged job seekers. So when somebody quits looking for a job, they get discouraged and they just quit looking. And they're going to live off of savings or sponge off of relatives, or maybe they get Social Security. I don't know. But the labor force participation rate in the U.S. right now is at 61.5%. Only a little over 60% of people who are of job holding age are actually have a job or are looking for a job. Nearly 40% of Americans who are at job age, which I guess is 18 and older, I would guess, and not in school, are looking for jobs. Only 3 out of 5 Americans who could hold a job either hold a job or are looking. Kim, hi. Thank you for say something. Bail me out. I'm just flailing away.
Hi, Rick. I can't show myself. I'm at physical therapy, but how are you doing?
All right. So I've been trying to be Mark and doing a mediocre job at it.
Oh, you're doing great by yourself. Oh my gosh. I mean,
all right. Well, thank you.
I've been listening as much as I could while doing physical therapy, but wow, there's a lot going on. Let's pick up this subject that you're talking about. I had to switch, so I kind of got caught in the middle. What are we talking about now?
We were talking about a miserable employment outlook in America right now, with only 60% of Americans who are old enough to have jobs either holding jobs or looking for jobs. That nearly 40% of Americans are too discouraged to be part of the job market. But I want to go on to a different subject. It's popped up a lot in the past 6 years, 5 years, with the COVID vaccine and COVID deniers, like being afraid of mRNA vaccines, that somehow it changes your genes, which it doesn't do. There's a lot of bullshit from the vaccine denial community.
Right.
Meanwhile, mRNA technology is doing amazing things. And Here's the headline from the Washington Post. Cancer treatment could face landmark moment with promising vaccine. A therapy using mRNA technology has offered hope to people with melanoma, skin cancer. So an experimental drug using mRNA to deliver a vaccine customized to a patient's tumors effectively prevented skin cancer recurrence in a large-scale clinical trial, which is huge because melanoma is the most deadly skin cancer, right?
Right.
Everybody our age gets little precancerous stuff, especially if you grew up before using sunscreen was a thing. You know, you go to the doctor, they shine a light on your face, and they say, yeah, well, you should take off this and this, and it's no big deal. But if it goes to melanoma, then you're kind of screwed because melanoma digs down into your skin and it can metastasize, and it's a really dangerous skin cancer with a high fatality rate. And now they're saying that even people with serious cases of melanoma might have their condition reversed and prevented from recurring by being vaccinated against the cancer with mRNA technology, which is freaking awesome. And all we can hope is that this research continues to move forward because like 40% of us will get cancer at some point in our lives. And
I agree with you on that. I've always believed we're all born with some kind of cancer in our body, in our DNA.
Yeah, I mean, cancer is just when cells start breaking, and
exactly.
if a bunch of they transform. You get your DNA kind of gets beaten up, and your cells don't reproduce perfectly anymore, and then they reproduce with increasingly damaged DNA. And if your DNA breaks, mutates in a lot of kind of probable ways, you can end up with a cancer. And but nobody's cancer is the same. It's because if you come down with cancer, it's the result of like a series of 8 things going wrong with the DNA in some of your cells. And it's not the same 8 things for everybody. I mean, cancers are related. Like kidney cancer in one person looks a lot like kidney cancer in another person, but maybe not exactly alike because the chain of mutations isn't exactly the same. So there are treatments for a lot of cancers, as chemo, which kills. Chemo poisons you with harsh chemicals that wipe out your fast growing cells, and cancer cells are super fast growing. So it attacks your, a faster growing cell will take up more of the poison and will die. So all the fast growing cells in your body, including the cancer cells, get screwed up. That includes your hair cells, because your hair follicles are fast growing cells, so then you lose your hair while you're on chemo often. But with mRNA technology, instead of doing chemo, maybe you can get vaccinated against your particular cancer. They take the cancer out of your body. They analyze its DNA. They analyze its shape, because part of vaccinating against any disease, including cancer, is you teach your immune cells what to grab onto. Your immune cells are like these, these globby things that, they flow through your blood vessels, and they bump up against stuff. And if they bump up against something that you shouldn't have, that's something that feels wrong on the surface, if they've been taught, if they've learned what things like with COVID, it's these spike proteins that look like doorknobs. So if you've been vaccinated against COVID, or if you've had COVID before, your immune system has learned to look out for doorknob shapes. And so it grabs a COVID cell, it finds the doorknobs, it grabs the doorknobs, and it engulfs the cell and kills the COVID virus. Not the COVID cell, the COVID virus. And it's the same tech for cancer. Some cancer cells are easy for your immune system to learn and to grab. Some cancer cells are tougher to grab. Kidney cancer is the cells are fairly smooth and hard to grab and hard to learn. I guess melanoma was maybe tough to, I don't know. It was tough to treat. Brain cancer, what Jimmy Carter had, was tough to treat until they came up with Keytruda, which is if you're my age and you watch like MSNBC or Fox or CNN, you'll see a zillion ads for Keytruda, because the people who watch TV news are old people. The average age of people who watch Fox and CNN, MSNBC is 65 or 70, and we're in our cancer years, so we're going to see Keytruda ads. Keytruda is immune therapy. Jimmy Carter had a brain tumor that killed, the type of tumor that kills like 99% of people who get it. But 10 years ago, Keytruda was new. They used Keytruda to train his immune system to attack the cancer cells in his brain, and it killed the cancer. And Jimmy Carter got to live another decade.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. And I thought that was the way our society was going to go. But I think those treatments either cost too much or they shelve them.
No, it's because lunatics like RFK Jr. Are in charge of the CDC or the HHS, Health and Human Services, and they've scuttled a lot of this science.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're shelving it or getting rid of it, and my question too, because I do the vaccines. I don't know if you've gotten your COVID vaccine, but I've seen a lot of people.
I've had it 10 times.
Right. Well, there's, I guess, a new one coming out this year, and people are getting it. So
I've skipped it for the last one I got was at the end of 2025, because this last year of COVID was the best year since the very early days of COVID. Levels were super low across all of America. So the odds that you would get it just out in the wild, if you took reasonable precautions, and I mean, not even like, I quit wearing a mask places. The only thing I would do is if somebody was coughing next to me, I would just move someplace else. But now COVID numbers are creeping up again. Generally, there's a fall-winter. There are two spikes. There's the pre-Halloween spike as everybody goes back to school. So September, October, it heads up. It didn't really do that much last year. And then there's the Christmas spike, December, January, where everybody's, inside because it's cold, and, Christmas parties and football, and we're giving each other, colds and COVID. Last year, that spike didn't happen. So I didn't get vaxxed. I got vaxxed once at the end of last year, but I skipped it. But depending on how high this new spike goes, and right now it's very shallow, your odds of getting COVID, most parts of America are still pretty low. There are some hot spots like Houston, Florida, Most of California has heated up.
I
But
would be interested in hearing, especially from Sasha, what do they do to prevent any more COVID spreads, or do they have a concern? Is it not an issue anymore? What are other countries like? What does Spain do? You know,
yeah,
Nick's in
well, I mean,
Spain, and you know, what
so
does the whole world do? I mean, I see a lot of people still wearing masks, but is the whole world still attempting to do something? That's what I'm
no,
curious about.
I mean, I don't know what the rest of the world's coverage, media coverage looks like, but in America, COVID seldom makes the front page anymore. It's been 6.5 years since
Right.
COVID first hit. And for the past 2 years, most people have considered COVID to be over. And it's not killing as many people as it used to, not hospitalizing as many people as it used to. So LA County has 8 million people. Right now, about 100 people are hospitalized in the county for COVID. So it still makes people sick. It still kills people. But 100 people out of 8 million, that's a really small, percentage.
Right. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I'm the kind of person that if they say, well, a vaccine would help, I'm going to do it. Just like if they tell me, Kim, if you get this surgery, it's going to prevent you from cancer spreading, or if you do this, it's going to protect you. So, I mean, I pay attention to my doctors. I don't think they're all in it for the money, right? Maybe the
Well,
research,
that's part of the anti-vax ball of conspiracy theories. The doctors are all in a conspiracy to make sure that you get sick and stay sick because they make money off of sick people, which is horse. I mean, that's so much horseshit just on the surface. Most. I don't know how doctors, most doctors get a salary, right? I mean, I don't see doctors like in a conspiracy to make more people sick so they make more money.
Right.
I think most doctors are, I mean, it's like ridiculous that you assume that every doctor is evil. That's like when I got in a huge fight with, we haven't done Naked at Night in a couple months because I got in a huge fight with Lance because Lance likes to say that if you belong to Islam, if you're a Muslim, you belong to, like an evil empire. And I yelled at Lance saying, there are 2 billion Muslims in the world, and most of them, 99.9, whatever, just want to live their lives. They're not in some kind of conspiracy to take over the world. Ditto for doctors. You don't go to school for 1,000,000 years to make people sick so you can make money. If you are a doctor and you're primarily interested in making money and not, getting called at 4 a.m., there are fields you can go into. You can go into dermatology. You can become a hair transplant doctor. There are plenty of, cosmetic surgeons. If you like money and you like being there are plenty of ways to do that. But most doctors are, anyway, it's stupid reasoning.
It is very stupid reasoning. And I think people just need to, follow the directive of their doctors because majority of the doctors are there to help you. I think we need to investigate what the rest of the world is doing because sometimes I can go in different countries and breast cancer isn't an issue, yet it is the biggest problem and the highest fatality rate for cancers in the United States, along with prostate, which is another cancer that you don't hear about in other countries.
Well, okay, so there's interesting stuff going on with both prostate and breast cancer, which with prostate, like I used to get my blood levels tested for prostate stuff once a year. And then the doctors said, nah, we're not going to do that unless you ask specially, because we're getting too many positives that you shouldn't really worry about. So if you do an autopsy on an old guy, somebody 80 or older, it turns out that most old guys have prostate cancer. But at a low level, something else killed them. They didn't even know they had prostate cancer. So what they were finding is that by doing all this testing for prostate cancer, they were finding all these cases that were of little concern, but causing freakouts and unnecessary treatment. Say you're 79 and they find low-level prostate cancer, and you've got type 2 diabetes, you've got, congestive, COPD. Well, maybe you shouldn't be worried about prostate cancer because it's not what's going to kill you. They changed their testing protocol, and they've been changing, I think, testing protocols for breast stuff. And, it's questionable because, like, I still want to know the shape of my, what shape my prostate's in, even though statistically, when you test everybody in America, every guy in America for prostate cancer, maybe you're going to find a lot of cases you shouldn't be worried about, but I want to know myself. Ditto for, changing standards of testing for breast cancer. That they can change the protocols because of large-scale statistics, but you may still want to insist on getting tested yourself to give yourself the best chance of fighting anything there is.
Right. I mean, and that's the key right there. And, I'm a big advocate now because of what happened to my husband, to don't just do any kind of heart screening, because he had heart screening done by one of those companies that advertise on Facebook. They advertise, we save lives. No, they gave him false readings. And because of it, he didn't think the symptoms he was having was serious. And so, he didn't get the help he needed when he needed it, and he died. So I'm a big advocate for going to your doctor, getting the tests that you need done. And if you feel like they're not right, like I kept feeling like there's still something wrong, keep going. Keep being your own advocate, keep pushing, and just say, I still don't feel good. Is there something else we can do? And because I kept pushing, we found out through a simple blood test, not all of the big heart scanner machines, but through a BNP, that I'd had a heart attack. So you just have to keep pushing. I think we need to put more faith in our doctors than crackly voiced, brain dead. RFK. I just think we need to put more faith in our doctors than we do our leaders.
But you also have to help the doctors.
You have to be there. Right.
You have to research. You have to do your own research. You have to teach yourself to tell the difference. If you go on, the internet's full of bullshit. You have to learn how to tell the difference between bullshit and not, or at least ask your doctor what's bullshit or not. But, like my wife is a very persistent medical advocate for herself. And you have to be, particularly if you have a condition that that crosses disciplines, or you have a condition that isn't entirely accepted by the medical community yet. There's this thing called POTS, which is postural dependent. What it is that if you go from lying down to standing up, your heart goes crazy and you might pass out, or your pulse might go from 60 to 150 for a couple minutes. And that is something that wasn't even acknowledged as a disorder by most doctors until the last few years. And it turns out that a ton of people have it. It's one of the possible consequences of COVID and long COVID, but COVID and Lyme disease didn't used to be widely accepted.
No, Lyme disease was
syndrome.
Right.
And a lot of the diseases that have a hard time like being accepted are diseases that primarily occur in women.
Yep. Well, of course, they're not going to take women serious. We're always told it's something oh, you're just overreacting or something. And, I had a doctor one time tell me, if you feel like you're suffering from something and you go to the ER and they go, oh, they don't tell you you're overreacting, but in words, they will express that. And he said, push it. If you feel like there's something wrong, push it, because all too often women are suffering from a heart attack or something else that's even more dangerous. And doctors and the medical industry are trained to, not take our symptoms as serious.
Well, the ER has a zillion people, and they do triage. They try to find the most seriously ill people and treat them first. And if you don't give them any reason to think that you're in at risk, then they'll move you to the. And there are signs that that you may have in yourself that may or may not, suddenly having to poop is the sign that you're about to have a catastrophic heart attack. A feeling of doom is a fairly reliable predictor that you are about to have a catastrophic heart attack, but not necessarily every doctor or nurse you run into in an ER that you go, whoa, I really have to poop. Or you may not even tell them that, because you don't even think that's a symptom. It's a private, it's a personal problem having to poop, but yeah, you push forward and keep we found out yesterday, my wife and I found out that our insurance through Writers Guild suddenly is getting a lot worse because
of course it is.
Because there are fewer writers working. So the working writers they get their employers contribute to the pension and health fund, and the smaller, so that fund is in trouble because there's a lower percentage of members of the Writers Guild working, and medicine is getting more expensive. So we used to have a deal where we go to the doctor. You go to a doctor in LA now, like a cardiologist, say, and you talk to him for 20 minutes and you get a bill for $1,100. We get a bill for this. That's how much it costs to talk to a heart doctor in LA.
Yeah.
But you'd see the bill and it would say, well, the insurance company talked them down to only $450, and out of the $450, you pay a $10 copay, which was great. We got so much medical service out of this system. We just found out the $10 copay is going away, and instead we are going to pay 20% of whatever the doctor charges, which
a lot of doctors walked away from the insurance industry, and they've opened up their own shops, and they charge realistic, honest rates, and they work with people to make the payments. A lot of them started their own little businesses and everything, and I'm not saying they were all specialists or anything either, but they started their own community, and you go in and you pay them monthly as opposed to an insurance company. Now, will it cover your hospital bills? No, but I learned something from the uber wealthy that Nick and I had the honor to interview. And one of the things I learned is a lot of them don't buy insurance. They go in and negotiate their own rates with hospitals. One of them, that's what he did every time he had a baby on the way. He didn't have insurance, and he would go in and negotiate, $10,000, and he would pay the $10,000. Well, that was less than the insurance premium added up, and less than the co-pays he had to pay, and anything extra that came up. And when he added it all up, and everyone thinks, oh, I could never do anything without insurance. It would cost me too much. He paid $10,000. Well, if you sit down and do your books, you would find out that you pay, being covered with insurance, you probably paid $25,000 for that same baby. And the reason why the hospitals do this is they get the money directly.
Yeah,
and it works to their benefit better because they're not negotiating or arguing over, will you cover this? And I think we need to move to that kind of system, like a blockchain that pays directly into doctors instead
we got to
of.
do something. The current system is based on the medical billing system is based on finding suckers.
Yeah, well,
So-
I mean, no, the biggest sucker is Medicare.
So what
Medicare.
happens
It is
is
ridiculous.
So the hospital, which is always running out of money. I mean, because it's expensive to do what they do. So when they start billing at like I had surgery on this finger to unlock it, and I think if you add up the pre-discount price of all the services, the operating room, what the surgeon gets paid, what the anesthesia, I think the whole thing was probably 25 grand for surgery that took less than 5 minutes. They cut open my hand like this much. They sliced open a thing in my hand, then they sewed me up. It was 5 minutes, $25,000. And the deal is, did anybody pay that 25 grand? I don't think so. I think
No.
the first they send out the bill, then the insurance company says, we'll pay you right now. We'll give you money, but we're not going to give you 25 grand. We'll give you 8 grand. And the hospital's like, okay, but that you start off high, because in some instances, like say you needed like a helicopter evacuation, you fall down a trail in the mountains, and they take you. That's like a $15,000 helicopter trip, and you don't know you can negotiate. You're not insured for that. You pay them the 15 grand, and everybody's like, "Great, we just got a big payday that will help cover some of our other losses." And so
Ambulances are the same way, and
you don't want to. If you can,
Right.
you want to drive yourself to the hospital.
We learned in our community they had an insurance plan directly to the ambulance companies, and if you paid them $100 a year, and that's all it was, any ambulance you need is free. And of course, insurance is supposed to cover it, but they'll deny an ambulance first thing right off the bat. That's the first thing that they'll start denying, and you have to fight it. So when my husband suffered his heart attack, which we've been paying in over the years, probably 10 years on this thing, maybe less actually. But we paid due diligently on it, and they came. Actually, I felt like we had about 18 people in here, because it was during COVID, and they were calling the hospitals trying to figure out the best place to take my husband. It was very efficient. And there was no bill. I sent the plan to the insurance company and to the hospital, I sent them that I'm on that plan, and the whole thing was covered. They didn't send me a bill or anything. So
people don't know what you can get insurance for. Like I think people my wife and I, we own our house outright at this point. But we bought in an umbrella policy, which is it's insurance on top of your insurance.
Yeah.
Like slip and fall. If somebody falls down our front stairs, or, you know, gets bitten by our dog or whatever, we have for, I don't know, $600 a year, we have an additional, I think, $1 million worth of coverage for, you know, all these various kinds of, you know, a tree limb. Like we got a huge tree in our backyard that drops a limb every once in a while. Somebody gets hit by a limb, we've got coverage for that. But we're way over time now.
Yes, we are. We're going to have to say goodbye. But I also just wanted to add, you can pay your dentist directly instead of buying dental insurance, and the money goes straight to them. But let's pick this subject up again another day.
All right.
Everyone, thank you for watching. And Rick, thank you for running the show all on your own. I thought I was able to watch some of it until I could jump on. But thank you, everyone. And until we see you tomorrow, take care and be safe.